Two movies, 30 years apart. I hope all of you will enjoy. I am multi-topic talk. Today we talk about The Cruel 1994 and The Cruel 2024. And the reason why it's because there's a 30-year gap between both movies. I enjoy watching new releases, whether they are good or bad. I enjoy doing that. I do it for my mainstream movies podcast, for videos like this one, and for the Red Blue podcast. I just enjoy movie in general. So it's coming from someone that likes cinema and movies. I will also tell you that 2024 thus far, we are in August right now, has offered me great movies I liked. I'd even say I think this year is a better year than last year. I won't diminish what we had last year. There were a lot of really good movies last year that I enjoyed. Red Rooms is a perfect example. It's one of my all time favorite movies. But 2024, we got bangers after bangers in my books. Now, after talking to others, I think I'm alone in my bubble, but that's fine. At least I don't sound like an echo chamber. Coming into the Cruel 2024, knew what I was getting into. I've heard people talking about it without spoiler. I've seen the headlines. Unwatchable movie. Terrible movie. This, this, that, that, that. So I came into it already knowing, okay, we will have issues. My, that was something. Before I dive deep into the Crow 2024, I'd like to talk about the first Crow. This movie was created in the decade I was born in. So I think it's fair to say it's a product of its time. I was surprised. I'm not the biggest fan of older movies. I'm sorry, all of these fans of old cinema. If the movie is around my age or older, sometime there's a disconnect for me. And that movie was around my age, but yet I liked it. And this kind of surprised me. Now, I am not saying there's no good movies that are older than me or my age. All I'm saying is that I don't always enjoy them. I will see the value, I will be like, oh, that's a good movie. I just didn't like it. I just didn't like the experience. But here, I genuinely like the experience. I was hooked from start to finish. And I highly recommend all of you that has not seen that movie, go watch it. The Crow 1994. Now, I did hear some whispers that there are other movies, other TV shows or whatever. Ignore these. Just watch that one. I haven't seen the others. I've heard mixed stuff about the rest of the stuff. And after watching the 2024 one, I can see why there's a divide. There are some people they were growing up when this came out and they have nostalgia, so they're like, I will like everything pro related except the remake because it's 30 years later and there's a disconnect there. But man, I I recommend The Cruel 1994. I didn't grow up watching this movie. In fact, I have seen this movie just for this video, like last weekend. I was like, the new one is coming. I will make a video about both because usually I don't really like to do single reviews for just one movie. I like to smash stuff together. So here we are. It's not a proper multi-topic talk take if we don't read out some notes and the stuff I have to say and the stuff I thought about the movie. So let's kick off everything with the three issues I had with the original crew. Number one, what convenience Eric bumping into the girl just before she'd get hit by a car. I will be honest. Oh yeah. I actually remember now. I was about to say I don't remember, but now I do. So Eric is just walking down the street, and the girl she was the girl he was taking care of during his living walked the same street at the same time, and it's convenience. In the movie, there's no proper setup of Eric wanting to reconnect or Eric seeking for that connection or well, the kid seeking for Eric whatsoever. It's just like they just happen to be in the same area at the same time. I don't like plot convenience like that. And I know a lot of you are like, oh, but it's a movie. We need this to happen for the scene. I don't give a shit. That's how I review stuff. Maybe I'm wrong, but hey, that's how I do stuff. Number two, plot convenience. Bumping into a random car at night only to steal it. And now I will be blunt and honest. I can't remember what I refer to. I just don't. Um, so I guess he was walking down the street and a car just happens to be around so he could steal it. What can I say? I tried to nitpick. I don't want to overrate stuff, and then I rate Trap an 8 while everyone else hated that shit. To get back on track. Number three, people can't aim in the church shootout. So at the end of the movie, it's like uh, everything blows up. Everyone shoots. Pew 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 pew. Everything goes nuts. And guess what? Nobody can freaking aim. And I hate this shit. It's like if you don't want people to hit target, don't give them guns. Or find clever ways so they miss. Like I don't know. I don't know. I hate it. I forgot how many people were involved in that shootout, but I can bet it would have been shorter if not everyone involved in it had plot armor. It lasted the time run it lasted because people could not aim. And this bothers me. My three issues out of the way. I enjoyed that movie a lot. I had a blast for real. I was hooked from start to finish. And I got so much likes and stuff I marked down. The opening sequence and the lore about the crow was cool. Great music, well shown. How Eric died, or that Eric died. The action was entertaining. Well shown that Eric came back to life. Well shown how the undead can heal wounds. Wounds? I, after reading all of that stuff, I'm like, that movie is great at showing you stuff. And I will be honest, I've seen the newest one, and I'm not saying that they don't show you stuff, but I don't think they show you as much stuff. as the previous one. I think there's a lot more people talking in general in the newest Crow movie. It's not wrong to have characters talk. A lot of times you need characters to talk to have a story, but I feel like it was really a film, a movie, the 1994 one. And I kind of spoil a bit how I feel about the newest one. So let's back on track with the oldest one. Full introduction to the bad guys in the bar. The good memories were effective to tell us why we should care about the relationship of the two victims. And now kinda I will kinda spoil again the movie. The newest one, the 2024 one. I didn't think it was as well made or as good. If we just rewind, compare the romance in the 1994 one to the 2024 one. I think the 1994 one was far better. Simple, simple. Was it bad with the 2024 one? I don't think it was that bad, but I remember all of these really short scenes, the flashbacks, the PTSD the main character has in the 1994 one. You can feel it's visceral. It's inside of him. It's like it's painful because he's like, I lost that person. You feel something, and it doesn't hit the same with the remake. They just don't have the touch or the magic the 1994 one has. We will get into it later. More good music, well shown with the parkour. All the main character is peak in terms of physical capacity. The action was great. Eric fighting the pawn shop guy was fun. Well told how Eric knew about the ring. The house blowing up was cool. Funny exchange with the cop. The villain was entertaining. The action was very fun. The bar scene with the guy that lost his store was cool. The music was fun. The car chase was well made. The car blowing up was cool. The police precinct scene was entertaining. Eric being haunted by the past was well depicted. More showing instead of telling. I like that. Just keep doing that, movie. The scumbag realizing his next was good. The villain meeting, the big firefight was great. The party being destroyed by the battle was well made. The guy weakness was well thought of. Eric endearing moment with the kid was cool. The big final fight on the rooftop was great. Eric finally resting in peace was great. And now, as I read through my notes, I actually remembered one of my issues with the newest one that I need to mark down right now before I forget. I kind of forgot I had it, but now it came back. It resurfaced because PTS. There was a party in 1994, and there was a party in 2024. Well, not really party, but anyway. Um, I'll just pause here and mark down the stuff. But yeah. So I am back after going to my letterbox in the description below. I kind of changed a few things because the other Crow movie got worse because I remembered that issue on top of the other issue I already had marked down. So yeah, I think the writing of 1994 was just simply better. We had a better product, a better movie. Anyway, to get back on track. Guys dying with bunch of needles was poetic as it deletes others with addiction. Nice message about everyone being victims of the world. The music playing on Eric Revival told the viewer it was sad, any tragedy, PTSD, and trauma linked to the death was well shown. The cop quitting cigarettes was fun. So overall, I like this movie. Overall, The Crow 1994 is a good movie. It's a product of its time because the writing was there. Maybe the money for the action wasn't there. Maybe it wasn't as flashy as the kind of action we get with more modern movie, but we still get a better movie overall. Now, again, I do think 2024 has a great movie. The Crew from 2024 is not one of them.
This is a long
So,
time. I saw we meant to record this before, but record this. Talk about this the other week, but you got sick, and then I kind of got busy too. So
yeah, yeah. So I gotta say, um, what did you think of? First of all, what did you think of the first Crow movie made in 1994? Have you seen it?
yes,
What did you think of that movie?
I've actually seen all the stuff with the Crow. Like you, when I asked you earlier, I don't, it's fine if you've never seen the series Stairway to Heaven or like Stairway to Heaven was based on a era of not the remaking Knight Rider, but it uses the premise and the story. Like you have City of Angels. It's kind of like there's a lot of stuff with the Crow. There's like made for TV because the Crow formula is a really simple formula. It is basically true lovers die, probably horrifically, and it's it's usually the male, the boyfriend, and then they come back, and then they kill the person who killed them. Then they're reunited with the person who basically at the end. It, this film was an exception. Like at least this one, if you didn't entitle it Crow, not me, I should say the first part. The '94 Crow was kind of based on the comic book done in '89, but not quite literally like they did with the Crow remake with a katana, right? Because he used a katana in the comic, but the first film, is kind of like a cult masterpiece, acted really good, adapted from the comic, as well as like, man, it is mired by the thing that happened with Rust, like with the person, like Brandon Lee was killed by a round that was supposed to be a blank, but
Yeah,
armor or missed. But that was a pure accident, you know.
yeah,
Like unlike Rust, but the person didn't get charged with any murder. But the it's the film of it's a very open shut story. They tried to do the best to adapt the comic, but that didn't really matter because no one really knew what the comic. The comic was literally drawn like early TMNT, like Frank Miller dark style. And to be fair, the comic was a lot darker. So, I mean,
that's interesting
you
because
didn't
that
know what you.
movie was kind of dark already with like
Oh yeah,
the assault and yeah,
they really because if you look at the comic, right? Because it's like, see, Multi, you've never really read early. I think it's Laird TMNT. Largely the black and white style was inspired by. So when Frank Miller did Batman Returns, the Dark Knight Returns, I should say,
yeah,
it set the tone that you can have dark, gritty superheroes and it sells. So Laird did like TMNT that way. The Crow was done as a dark vengeance story, kind of like what Ghost Rider is meant to be.
Yeah.
Like he has these weird powers, like he entirely just goes around, gets revenge, like on 1010 and all of them, and just kills them more horrifically. Like he goes into like the antique store,
Yeah.
and like the guy tries to bribe him, and he just maliciously murdered. Like the goes, oh, you can have it. Then he does it. Then he just burns down. Like the guy's dying on the floor, and he burns down the entire restaurant. I mean, the entire pawn shop. Like it's a lot grittier. It's a lot darker. So that's the whole thing. Like with it, it's there's a reason why it's subtly a classic. City of Angels wasn't as bad. I know you're not talking about that intentional, but like the rest were made for like television or like movie sequels. The Stairway to Heaven series wasn't as bad, but it wasn't Villain of the Week either. But it's that weird thing because a lot of the projects that are the Crow like are meant to it. Like because the main character is Eric Draven
Yeah.
and the person he's trying to. Because it's an open and shut story, right? Because the idea is the Crow is an unstoppable killing machine, minus hurting the Crow in some fashion.
Yeah.
So, if that makes sense.
It does.
Because, like, you're basically an undead revenant.
Yeah.
The the reboot that they tried to do, Skarsgård, right, tries to capture it, but they fail in the basic formula.
I
Because
agree with that.
if it was not The Crow, if you did not entitle that film The Crow, it would have been a better film. You have literally comic books that were never made into shows or television you could have adapted with other people. If that made sense.
Yeah.
But they went with Eric Draven and they took a different path. But the 94 is like, it's that weird classic. City of Angels. Love it or hate it. It was actually really good. But like, then again, it's right. You're talking to the point of it was probably lightning in a bottle. But, you know, that's how it works, right? Because a lot of people aren't familiar like with the comic, and that's what they tried to adapt with that one. But you didn't want to go as dark as the comic does, like, and they tried it in the modern one, and they capture some of that because the Crow turns into a killing machine.
Yeah.
That's really what happens. But that's why I said, what are your thoughts, Multi, on the 94?
I liked it. That was a great movie. I was entertained from start to finish. The action was cool. The characters were likable and entertaining and enjoyable. I think even the supporting villain were interesting. And I cannot say the same with the remake. It's just two different worlds. In the old version, you feel like there's scare to it. And I don't really know about the source of material, but I want to know more about watching Rewind. I want to know more about the lore and what's going on in the comics after watching the 1994 movie.
What
And
I would, what I'd say, Multi, I recommend to you. There is, I'm sure, online, and people who are interested, there is like Dark Horse Comics, there is the main comic run that in the reboot that we'll talk about later, he has the samurai sword and he's just going around being more malicious.
Yeah.
Because the idea of the Crow, like initial, was he was like a glam rocker,
Yeah.
like that got murdered. Then they did like he's like a grunge person because it's early '90s and you have to recapture Nirvana. But
And I gotta say, in the 1994, even if you spent like less than 20 minutes spread out in the entire movie with the couple, you really feel bad and sorry about them because you genuinely think these are the only good people in the town they are in, and they just die, and the wife just get SA, and it's so sad, it's tragic, and you're like, this is how it ends.
basically, you're in the wrong, like in the comic, right? They just happen to be in the wrong time and wrong spot in the wrong time.
Yeah,
They decide to go take a picnic into the middle of nowhere.
yeah,
And it just happened to be a murderous gang that,
yeah,
and granted, I mean, that's why, like, City of Angels does a little bit separate. It's a little bit weaker because it's like it kept the same premise, you
yeah,
know. But it's like we don't really talk about the made for like sequels, but the Dark Horse comics are really good as well. They're like 6 issues or as I said, it's a strange thing, multi. Like as I said, I'm sure online and I can probably find it. You can see where you can read the Dark Horse comics. Because the thing
yeah,
about a lot of the Dark Horse comics, and you'll see this with Aliens as well, the Alien franchise, you see it with some of the Star Wars that was like middle of the 90s. They have really good side stories.
yeah,
And they're like a lot of the Alien and Predator mythos, right, comes from not the movies. It comes from the Dark Horse comics.
yeah,
So the idea, it's just the formula is a really simple formula and it's entertaining. And it's like, even though if you take into the point, it's like he's like an emo band or it's like that. Because even like by those standards, I mean, you play up the couple. And it's why it's like a classic. Like I saw it a lot younger, you know.
yeah,
Like it's one of those things of you could arguably say it's meant to be. That's why, as I said, they don't adapt it. It's like a 1-for-2 adaptation of the comic. You can't really show the person just brutally killing people. You know,
yeah,
it's like even by standards, it's because a lot of the comic was inspired purely by the pulp style that is in Frank, because the original is dark and gritty and it's done in the Frank Miller style. Like it's that Frank Miller Batman the Dark Knight Returns vengeance style. It's very much it's not meant to be arguably too, like that's why I say like it's a good source material to read and it gets you into the universe. So.
that's interesting. Now, what did you think of the remake?
I've touched on it before. Part of it, it doesn't feel like a Crow film. All he had to do, hypothetically, let's say, so supposedly the original was only 120 minutes.
That's 2 hour. That's like 5 extra minutes.
What is it? No, it was like an hour. It was supposed to be like an hour 20 or something like that. Like an
Oh,
hour
that would be
30.
90 minute then.
It was like an hour 20 to like an hour 30.
So
that
that'd
they
be
showed in the
90 minutes. Yeah.
yeah, and apparently they add like they make you feel for the couple. Now, I'm not saying I hate the idea of the main villain. I just think it feels like not half of a Crow film. Because I was watching it with Miss Sparkles because she just wanted to watch it or whatever. It's like I was gonna watch it anyways. I asked her, said jokingly I was gonna make her suffer and watch it. It's not that Skarsgård makes a decent Crow. Like it, they want it to be New York City, but half the film is shot in Europe. Like you know, it's European architecture.
Yeah.
I know you saw it too in the film.
I was like, that's not New York.
That's European. That's European style.
Yeah.
And
You're
then
right.
they would take shots to make it look like blended in, so it looks like a different version of New York City. Like that doesn't take me out. The film is like, yeah, it's a whirlwind romance, right? The
A
person's
boring one. I almost fell asleep while watching. I swear, I was in the theater. I
really.
was like that,
You didn't like the expanded like how they
dude.
fell in.
It took him a goddamn hour to become the Crow. First of all,
Yes, and that is a
and
dumb reason how he becomes the Crow
and
because
and the
like
second shit is we spent, I swear, 40 minutes with that couple, maybe 50 minutes with
they
that
waited
couple.
too long. Like the idea, right?
I
He should
I
have had the power. Okay, the thing about it is, if it wasn't a Crow film, they call it the Crow. Let's say
No,
you
no,
want.
no, no, Dlord. I will cut you off right now. Let me talk. Even there, 50 minutes. You have all of that build up
Uh-huh.
for the couple. And I still didn't give a shit about neither of them. So even if it's just a generic
Okay.
romance, White All the Crow, it's terrible. I hated both actors and characters. I don't know if that's the chemistry or the writing, maybe a mix of both, but that was bad.
You didn't like. Was it Skarsgård that threw you off, or the chick?
Both. They just don't work well together. It's just not believable. And I've seen other reviews after that because I was like, am I crazy? Like, is there something wrong with me? And I realize others, like other reviewer, other critique, they have better words. And a lot of them said, yeah, they just don't have chemistry, and they are good at self-destruction. So why should we care if they destroy each other, if they feed off each other worst side? Why should we care?
And I get that, right? Because it's a very different way it starts as well. It's like they both beat in a rehab, basically.
Yeah. And they
Like,
just run away from that rehab place like easy peasy, like no sweat fail.
I mean, without the idea, the ritualistic idea of the guy's a demon that's living, and he sacrifices, I guess, the souls of the wicked. Like, it's not like it's a weird take. Like the villain would work like he's been alive for some time, and it's like it's one of those things of I get the theme that they were trying to go with. It just didn't land. Like I actually thought like the romance went on a little longer than it probably should have.
A little, I would cut half of it. I swear. The other movie took 20 minutes and I cared a lot more about them. And this movie in 45 minutes made me hate the characters even more. I was like, I want this movie to end. That's
It's
how
that
I felt.
weird thing of like if you go back to like Acolyte, right? The guy who played the Sith guy acted better than the other person because you could feel he's trying to sell his role.
Yeah.
Skarsgård sells Eric Draven, but he is not the Crow.
No, I disagree. Like, I feel like he was a wimp, and even when he had like the powers and all, he was like, yeah, I don't want to hurt you guys, and then he get off because he stopped believing in his substance addict girlfriend. And when he comes back, he's Rambo and he's willing to delete them all. It's like, okay,
Um, no.
that switch was turned fast.
Okay, so here's the thing that actually takes me out of the film. That is actually something that when you look down at like what is the Crow mythos, he basically okay. I'm like, so you have Cronus, right? The
Yeah,
idea is because they have the thing you can watch a lot of these from home, but you can actually watch a lot of these, and I'm like, you look at it, and I'm like, okay, so that's like purgatory that they can do things. So Cronus offers the deal to send him back. And then halfway through, right, I'm fine with like, oh, he was going to get betrayed. Like, I don't think that that was an issue. Like, the idea he was going to get betrayed. And then, oh, do the thing. But he goes, he loses the powers of the crow because he doubts the thing because he has a vision that she goes, well, okay, first part, there's a flaw. Like, the guy that helped, and he's a callback to one of the old characters in The Crow, too. The original, I think. Where at the industrial rave thing, where he's like, oh, he finds the guy later. He goes,
yeah.
oh, I thought you were dead. And he goes, oh, you didn't know what she did? She did work for him. And the whole idea is the demon guy has a power to do stuff because he can just make people delete themselves. And I'm like, this is an interesting villain. But he
This
goes,
I agree. This aspect, I think the power are the only interesting thing about this movie. But even they're like the characters themselves, they are bad. Like
you're
every
talking,
single character in this
you
movie
didn't
sucks.
you actually didn't like, what is it? He usually plays villains.
I don't. I will say all of the characters were wasted. All of the characters were bad. The dialogue felt like it was written by a teenager, and it was horrendous.
I'll
Like,
say that, yes, but like I think like the henchmen aren't as like some of the henchmen actually had better acting or chemistry ability than the others.
nah, I disagree, and I will go that far. I'm not born speaking English, obviously, and I feel like I have a better vocabulary than whoever wrote that script with these people talking like aliens. Swear.
I guess that makes sense. I mean, I'm not saying like it's the absolute worst. I'm not saying the film. I mean, it's actually salvageable. It's not like part of it. It's a weird film. It gets called okay. Like it's not great, and then you get to the part where he starts becoming the crow. Like he actually, because the premise is after he goes, why doesn't the powers heal me anymore? You doubted your love and only true love, and I'm like, that's not where the crow crap comes from.
Yeah.
You already have the power because the crow is not in the physical. Okay, The crow doesn't do anything. Like in the other film, the idea every time you see the crow is part wherever he goes. It's his eyes, it's his ears, right?
Yeah.
It's his eyes, it's his ears, it's his thing. It's like his homing thing. And the villains pick up on it or something. Because if you're supposed to be a revenant, it's unstoppable and heal immediately. It's not going to be base. So he goes, "Oh, you gotta make it. The hurt. Oh, the soul's damned. Anyways, it's like it doesn't make sense. So he's trapped in purgatory. That he may eventually be reunited with her.
I
But
gotta admit something else. The action in this movie was actually really good.
what do you mean?
I
That you mean the caveat right at the end that is like
Yeah.
the murder, like all through, like
Yeah.
that's like that's like John Wick's like style of stuff. Like you're like, and it's like supposed to be. As I said, what really sells that scene as well is actually they use it's like a European theater,
Yeah.
like, and he that makes sense that he becomes this vengeful revenant that goes around killing people. You know what I mean? It makes more sense at that point.
Yeah.
But like, and then I get to the middle part. Like, I tolerate the relationship part. I'm like, okay, this is a different take. So he's going to become that, and he's going to realize that he needs to become more wrathful and do whatever. Because to take down the actual people, he needs to use the power of the crow.
Yeah.
He needs to actually go full crow. And I'm like, oh, but he can't go back because of the thing. And I'm just like, that's why I spent the other half, that middle part. He goes, well, you got to make the deal. And I'm just like, that doesn't, it takes you out of the film. And then there's a part with the action where they're murdering the people in the opera house.
Yeah.
And it's like, then they recapture that right when he's about to go, oh, but I can't go back with you. And I'm
And then
like,
they go back.
and then it's like the film ends go, maybe one day I'll be reunited with her. So she's going to wind up in purgatory again as well. You know
and
what's fun?
and before you go on, there's another thing I will mention. In the older version, the 1994, at the very end, there's a bunch of henchmen right beside the big villain, and the crow is like, "Yo, guys, I just want the bad guy. You can all leave if you want, but if you stay, you will die." And this is exactly what happens. In this new remake, he doesn't give a shit. He just goes through everyone. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing.
That comes from the comic.
Okay.
That comes
But
from like that comes from the comic. The comic is a lot more gritty about like the one in the 94 version. It's the point of he didn't know about the main guy.
yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, there's a part that they left out of the 94 that's in the comic that that's like supposed to be his half sister. Not the
Wow.
guy, the main villain, the one that was like the Native American witch lady.
Yeah.
Like that is actually supposed to be like the guy's possible half sister or like sister that he has like it feelings
Wow.
for, and that's what I said. It's the comic is a lot darker. Like he basically shows her like Ghost Rider visions, and he throws him. He falls off in the building and dies.
Yeah.
Like that's the big deal. Like it's not a huge. Like all you had to do if you're gonna remake The Crow, recapture some of that. Go with the katana that's in the comics. Have him be less remorseful.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's the guys because well maybe he doesn't, but don't have that weird thing. And
Yeah.
it's a strange thing because it would be fine. Then he just goes back and sleeps and's reunited with her. You know,
Yeah.
like it's not. Then again, the one in '94 was shot with. I can't remember too when Dark City came out. You've never seen Dark City, have you?
I didn't.
So that was '98. So there was this really. It's like a. I think Cole would know more about it. It was a cinema style that was meant to be darker. That a
Yeah.
lot of this stuff was shot in. Like, but horror films felt like horror films or stuff. But that's why I said, like, I give it like actually a grade. It's like because of the action in some of the later film, like I didn't mind the train yard. I actually thought the train yard was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. You're trying to go with a more spiritual aspect. You're trying to explain the realm the crows live in. Souls eventually die, they can't pass on or they don't go to hell kind of thing. They're trapped in purgatory. What is purgatory going to look like? It's going to look like the rail yard.
Yeah. But I gotta say one last thing before I ask you what's your grade for the remake shitty one. Um, I gotta say this. I think the 1994 having uh, the main character telling everyone to leave, to give the option, the actual option to leave or to stay and die, that added charisma. It added character. And I feel like the remake lacks character. So I'd say they did a mistake in the remake.
Well, you don't have the whole scene where he just shoots the guy. He shoots him, then he goes underneath the table and takes out all the henchmen.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of forgot about that, and I'm like, that's one of those badass moments. It's like, oh. But the whole thing, too, right? It has that weird. Then again, bear in mind, around '94 was around the same time. Like, you've ever seen Batman, right?
Yeah,
Batman and
I've
Batman
seen
Returns.
pretty much every Batman movie.
You know, it has that style that he was trying to capture as well.
Yeah.
Because that was like fresh off both of those. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And he's
Yeah.
like, oh, Tim Burton style. Like, it
Yeah.
sells the thing of. And they do a little bit of. Like, I like the atmosphere of it. But yet you miss some of the charm. But you make the mistake. He shouldn't have been Eric Draven.
Yeah.
That does not make sense. You could
Yeah.
have gone a different story. You could have gone a different route. You could have said he forsaked his love. She could have been evil. Like the whole thing is, I couldn't have done that if she didn't have a seed of corruption.
Yeah.
What? But I'm like, that's the reason you doubt?
And it's obvious she has corruption. She was an addict. So yeah, I guess it makes
But you
sense,
forget
but it's
though,
stupid at the
there's a
same
scene that I
time.
had to pause and I had to go back, right?
Yeah.
It's the scene where he sees her, and Miss Sparkles didn't like it because there's a scene where he gets his shirt ripped off again, and he doesn't like the whole idea. And I was like, but if you blink, you miss it. She got told to do something, and then she just stabbed someone to death. So you
Wow.
committed evil. Not only
Yeah.
do you have corruption, you just commit evil and stab somebody for
Yeah.
the guy.
So, what would be your grade out of 10 for the 1994 and then the remake,
I
just to
give it like
compare?
the nine. I in hindsight, I give it like the 94. I say it's about near perfect, but it's only because it has at least like I give it like an 8 out of 10. The remake, I give it like it's only because of action. I give it like a 5 out of 10 because it has half the story, the action. I like the setting and the atmosphere works, but the story just
It doesn't.
it's just the setting is good, the artistic style is good, the action is good, the writing, like Skarsgård to me, and it's where we disagree, sells the role. She doesn't. Apparently, by the way, her name is she's an actual British musician. Her name is like Faka something. FKA something. Like that's her like stage name. And I'm like, what? It's like, okay. She's it's like, oh right. I mean I can care, but it's what you see what I say too, because spoiler for people when you see the later part, Gray said it's horrendous. He says it's worse than Borderlands for him. I actually say Borderlands is still the worst film of the year next to Madam Web.
I am with you, Dlord. I'm with you.
This is The Crow was not as a bad of abomination, but it
It was an
was
abomination, but like Borderland and Madame Web are just even lower.
worse.
It's just like which one compete the most? Which one like really wants it rock bottom first?
Like, and I've heard defenses of the most people say about The Crow is it wants to be a Crow film, but the writers missed the mark and they had all the opportunities to do it. Because part of it is what saves it with me is it goes back and it uses some of the elements that weren't used
Yeah,
from the first. Like you remember I said the comic was darker, him going around murdering people with a katana,
yeah,
that's in the comic.
yeah.
And I mean, to be fair, yeah, and the other movies, right? You're not going to review Beetlejuice this week, are you? Or
Yes, I will. It's actually next Sunday.
next Sunday is the next?
Not this Sunday, like Sunday 8th.
Hmm. It's true. I forget though. You have to like. I do apologize. I'm not
I will
like.
send it back to you.
You'll have to.
Yeah,
Yeah, I have. I have been really busy. I've just got like as I Black Myth Wukong's been out for a while. I got
yeah.
Space Marine 2 released the 9th.
Anyway,
Lost. But yeah.
we are out for now. Thank you a lot for sharing, D Lord. So,
Hmm.
really, what would be like the final grade you'd give The
I give
Crow
it like a
2024?
of films.
2024. So you'd give it a 5?
Yeah, I give it a 5.
Well, thank you a lot for sharing. That's much more generous than I did. I
That's why I
gave
said
this
I give
movie
my reason. You
I
know.
gave this movie a 3.5. So that's a huge gap. Anyway, thank you a lot.
Yeah.
And here we are. Hi, Charles. How are
Hi,
you?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm doing great. So today, you know the deal. Crow, the 1994 one, and the new one. Um, how far in your memory is the first Crow, the 1994 one?
It's been a very long time since I've seen it. But I'm somebody who doesn't really, I don't romanticize it the way a lot of people do, and I'm somebody who doesn't think it needed to be remade or sequels or any of that. But at the same time, I didn't realize that there's 5 of them. Um, but like as far as love for the original, I'm not the right guy, and certainly after the remake, um, it didn't need to be remade or retouched up or whatever. But um, it's a good movie. It's something that I enjoyed. It's just weird that they keep remaking good movies and not remaking bad movies.
And I think the most hilarious part is when they remake a good one, but the remake is so bad.
Yeah, yeah. Remake bad movies and make them good, not the other way around.
I like that thing. I
I
like it.
think I stole that from Cody, actually.
My. But why would you say you were not that big of a fan? Well, how did you feel about that 1994 one? Based on what you remember, of
It's all
course.
right. It's what edge lords watched in the '90s. It's it's like I don't know. Didn't the people that did Columbine, didn't they model themselves after what Brandon Lee looked like in The Crow?
This I don't know. I heard about Columbine, you shot people and such,
Yeah,
but
I was trying to
that's all
avoid
I know.
the S word, but yeah, it's part of culture. The way teenage girls just wanted everything to be like Twilight for that stretch. It was like that for young boys when The Crow came out. It was more a cultural thing than it was uh, a a legendary film to me. And I realize there's a lot of people that enjoy that movie, but to me, it was just another movie in a very good year. 1994 is a really good year of movies, and I don't think it would crack my top 10 just for that year alone.
Wow. What would be your favorite movie that year then?
That's a good question. Um, 1994.
That's so a long time ago.
Yeah, uh, Pulp Fiction is that year.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I knew it was around late 80s, early 90s, but 94, the exact year, I didn't know.
yeah. The Ref, True Lies, Leon the Professional, Shawshank.
Oh yeah, Shawshank. Oh, Shawshank was there. Okay, okay. I've seen Shawshank like 6 months ago for the
Hmm.
first time.
Clerks. These are all movies that I would rank higher
Then The
than The
Crow.
Crow. Brain Scan. I don't think that was '94. That's a lie. Yeah, so it was a very good year, and certainly Shawshank, certainly The Ref, certainly Leon the Professional. Uh, I'll even put Speed above The Crow and Pulp Fiction, definitely.
I never heard about Speed.
Have you not seen Speed?
I haven't.
It's Die Hard in a bus.
Oh, okay. That sounds fun.
That's what
So
they
better
called it
than
when
The
it came
Crow.
out. Die Hard in a bus.
Okay, okay. That's on my watch list actually. I want to see that on the bus. That's cool. Yeah. So I guess now that we kind of said, yeah, you thought that was me. What did you think of the remake?
Oh, it's very bad. It's very bad. Um, so the same analogy I used for you know culture, the way like kids kind of embraced just everything about the way the Crow was. I think they like inverted the whole thing that I was talking about with Twilight, and they made the Crow remake about like romance and weird weird stuff about like I don't know
Taking
kids,
stuff.
yeah, kids who do drugs and go to, I don't know, a unisex prison rehab facility, and the movie opens up with this weird like drug thing that the person has a video of something and she runs away, and I it was so convoluted where I mean I needed to be reminded of this, that the love story in Crow wasn't much in the original wasn't much longer, but it hit a hell of a lot harder, where they took more time in the remake to develop this relationship, and it just felt so phony, so undeserved. And like I had no investment in their relationship, and I didn't really believe much as I often complain about contrivances, and movies needs some contrivances. Some of it is a little, there's a certain point where you start, now you're being silly. And the fact that he like knows how to escape out of the place, but just decides, F it, I'll go now that she's leaving, I'll follow her. Like, what? That's romance right there. I don't know what the message they were trying to tell us was with that, but and she was into him because he was like getting bullied, and I I it they tried to sell you on something they didn't give you, and I just did not care.
It's hilarious because you're not the only one. Everyone says the same thing on that.
Well,
And
like I'm the wrong guy to ask. I don't know what people are looking for from a Crow remake, but I would have assumed the last 20 minutes of the remake is what people were dying to see, and they made you wait so long and sit through so much nonsense to get to. By that point, they give you what you want. It's just like, yeah, I don't care anymore.
it's hilarious because that's something we will talk about a bit later. But like in my day when Crow came out is I go see Strange Darling, a masterpiece, and then
Oh,
I'm like, okay, I gotta see Crow now.
you saw Strange Darling first and then The Crow? Oh, that's gonna make it worse.
Like they were like 15 minutes apart.
Oh,
And I swear, in that first hour of like romance,
hmm.
at some point I almost fell asleep. I was like, how can they mess up so hard? Really? Ow.
Yeah,
It's
they break out of the rehab facility. They all have places to stay that are really giant and luxurious, and they have clothes to change, and they have access to more drugs. And it's like, I'm sorry, does money like not exist in this world that they're living in? Because usually when people are in rehab, they have a really difficult time with their drug, and money is part of that difficult time. Not these two, either of them, just partying.
and the irony. I did see the Crow just like around the same time, like a few days before, and this movie, if you really put all of the scenes with them together, you get maybe 20 minutes of them. But in the end,
Yeah.
I did care about that. And the 20 minute is really spread out. Like, you got one scene here, one scene there, one scene here.
Mhm.
And in between these scenes, you got stuff going on. The plot advances, there's action, there's, go from place A to place B. So there's always something to keep you engaged.
Mhm.
And if I remember correctly, the runtime was like an hour and a half ish,
Yeah, it was
the
fine.
original one.
Oh, I don't remember the original.
Um, that remake has an easy 20 or 30 extra minutes, the other didn't. And they didn't place that for more action. They placed that for the relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. Druggies doing drugs and partying and going to clubs, and I don't
And
know. And the guy
I
with the, like the guy with the power who needed some sort of magic injection, whatever. I don't care. I don't
I
care.
actually enjoyed the powers, but
Really?
not the character. The powers are kind of cool,
Like it's the
but
one thing that I was like, oh yeah, this part. Because the movie opened with that girl who was running away and she had a footage on her phone or something. And then the the crow's girlfriend, she runs away and she's got a shit ton of drugs on her. And then she runs into the police. And then from there you're in rehab for I don't know, 25 minutes or whatever. And then they escape because they want to escape. And it's just that easy. And then
this
they
is
have their little love affair and then oh yeah, by the way, we have to go because there's a guy at this club and remember that thing that I was running from at the rehab facility? That's a problem again. We're gonna die.
oh my, this is hilarious.
It feels like they had like notes, like, all right, it's been 30 minutes, we gotta do this. All right, it's been 35 minutes, we gotta do this. And that's it. Like,
Checklist.
yeah, just no emotion, no feeling, no flow, just okay, got it. Next, got it. Next, got it. Oh wait, we didn't do the cool thing. Put that at the end.
There's a lack of action. Let's just think about something in the car that lasts like 20 seconds. Pew 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 pew. It's over. Okay, they said.
Yeah, it has no emotion. It's very commercial. Not a fan.
Um,
Oh, you know what? What I will say, since I don't want to completely shit on something where everyone else is, um, the digital effects, the FX work, was quite good. So not everyone mailed it in on the Crow remake. I liked a lot of the visual effects and some of the CG work and the designs, some of the work on how to make the image look computerific.
I
So
think it's interesting that you bring this up because usually I'm not that hard to please on that level, but I feel like a lot of people just shit on whatever they can shit on,
right,
and like CGI doesn't require that much brain
mhm,
power to like, oh, it's bad.
yeah,
But tell me more than just it's bad. Like,
yeah,
why would you say
bad
it's?
writing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the oh, it was lazy.
Yeah.
You're lazy for saying it's lazy. But yeah, like CGI. Like I grew up playing PlayStation games and Nintendo 64 games. I know it's different because now we compare video games and movies, but
Mhm.
I'm not that hard to please as long as what I see should look like what I
Right.
see.
Right. And like that's the thing that I'm like trying to get across here. If everything else about the movie worked, it'd be a great movie. What essentially what I'm saying is the CG, the digital effects work, it didn't kill the movie. So
Yeah.
if everything else was right, this would be a really good movie. So the CG didn't add to the just tire fire that the rest of the movie was. So the positives are the CG. I'm not gonna like crap on it just because I liked 8 out of 10. I didn't like 8 out of 10 things, so I'm just gonna keep going at the other two done. It's just not fair. It's not. I don't know. Really bummed
So
out with the way people talk about movies lately.
so you've seen a lot of movies. Where would you place that one?
Where who?
Just the Crow the remake. Where would you place the remake among the movies that came out this year that you've seen at least?
2024 releases.
Yep,
It's bottom five.
that's around me. And I feel like people that says that one is the worst, I think they have
Mm,
short time memory.
yeah, it's it. Madam Web came out this year.
Yeah,
The Mousetrap came out this year. Looney Tunes
Borderlands.
2. Yeah, I haven't seen Borderlands. Night
It-
Swim, just boring. And then The Crow is fifth from the bottom for me. And I haven't seen Borderlands. Like, if you're saying The Crow is the worst, either you haven't seen very many films, or like I don't know. It seems like you're trying to do something.
Yeah, I've. Okay, I will be honest. Sometimes when I review stuff, after I'm done recording my part, because I don't want my part to be influenced by others,
Hmm.
I actually look into what others had to say,
Right.
and I've heard a lot of people saying it's the worst movie this year.
Well, I mean, if you've only seen like 7 movies this year, that's fair.
Yeah,
That's understandable. But like, I've seen close to 60 movies already so far this year, so it's the worst thing I've seen this year. That's silly.
and now, on top of one of the movies we will talk about after that, I'm at 37 movies now,
Hey.
and um, the Crow 2024 is not last place. It's
Hmm.
not that high. I think it's also in my bottom five. But like, there's Madame Web worse than that.
Hmm.
There's Unfrosted, I'd say worse than that.
I have The Crow just behind. I have Unfrosted as a better movie than The Crow, and they're right next to each other. So I can understand why you would say that.
I at least there was action I kind of enjoyed. There
Hmm.
wasn't enough action to redeem the movie, but
Right.
like, compare this and a comedy I didn't laugh at, I will take that.
Hmm.
And there's Borderland. Borderland is some of the worst stuff I've covered on the channel. It's if you want to watch a bad movie,
I think that's out on
Borderland.
digital already.
Yeah, it's. I swear it's bad. Like, Madame Web is worse in my books because it just has
It's
just so much
messy.
more.
It has no
Yeah,
idea what it is, that movie. It
and
has no idea.
the characters are like, they're empty.
Yeah.
It's like, why do you need to care about what's going on there if like all of these characters are so bland? I don't like saying that, but they're
Yeah.
bland.
The relationships just don't make sense. Like, nothing really matters. It's just, and I don't know. It's very hard to believe any of that stuff flowing because it doesn't flow to begin with. Here, wait in this diner while I go. Oh, no, actually, no. Wait in this forest, which is somehow near a diner that you're gonna go. What?
Or some of the dialogue, that some of the dialogue in that movie didn't feel like people talking. It felt like a script.
Yeah, I mean, if that were the only problem, that would be okay. But it's not the only problem.
Like, a big list.
Yeah.
And there's also like, The Cruel for me, the remake is right beside Bob Marley One Love. I don't know if you've seen that one.
No, I haven't. I heard that some people enjoyed that actually.
I don't know how you can enjoy it. So it's basically a concert
Uh huh.
with a few scenes of story in between.
Hmm. Oh wait, that reminds me. I've seen a biopic. Where did I put it? Oh, Back to Black. I have pretty high, all things considered. Back to Black is kind of wow. That's very high considering I hated that movie. It's 36 on my list.
But yeah, like, it's literally fifth place. I'm thinking about it. The Crow for me, The Crow is fifth place. The worst in the bottom.
5 from the bottom.
Yeah. So it's number five somewhere. It's something.
Depends on where you're going, from the top or bottom.
So do you want to add something about The Crow before we move on to another topic?
No, no.
Okay.
I like who you're a bigger fan of the original. So do you recommend?
The original, yeah. I
Well,
like the
yeah,
original.
but
I
is the remake worth anything to anybody?
I don't think so. And
Doesn't
even
serve a
there,
purpose.
I'm not that much of a fan of the original. So
Hmm.
I went to the original because of that remake, and I
Oh
heard good
wow.
stuff about the original. So I was like, you know what? I won't make just one video shitting about the new one. I will
Hmm.
make a video talking and praising about the old one, and a part shitting on the new one. Like, that's how I view things. I don't want to like be overly negative on one thing. Like, I try to balance it out. And I feel like if I have a one overly negative video, I need a one more positive video, like about another thing I like.
Mhm.
That's why my big review for the Batwoman TV show is not out yet, but it's ready. It's because I have nothing positive ready. It's the same for the Walking Dead, because I did finish Walking Dead like 2 months ago. The video is almost ready. Like, there's a part with Gray. I'm waiting to record with Gray eventually when he finishes the show, because he was like, "Yeah, I plan on finishing it." So okay. Um,
isn't it? Isn't it going on in some other fashion right now? The ones who live or something.
yeah, the one who lives is like a sequel. It's like season 13, but it's only Rick and Michonne. I've seen that. That was
Oh,
bad. That
okay.
was bad. But actually, considering the overall show, I think that one was better than the average of the show. But that's not saying much, you know. Like,
No.
it's like saying, "Do you like to be shot on your left or right foot?"
Neither. How about neither?
Yeah, about neither. But yeah, like, that's why we got both crows there, because there's one I liked, there's the one everyone hates. And here we are. I changed short to edit better and remember, look, this is the outro. This is me talking about cinema and a bit of politics. I think I am very sad. I've seen, at that point, as I am making this video, 36 movies that came out in 2024. 36. Now, Charles from Wiliscredia has seen more. He has seen 44 or 46. I don't know. There's a 10 gap. And Dre Poupet, he has seen like 60. So maybe they will have a different perspective on what I will bring up here. But here's what I will bring up. I look back at every movies I've seen this year. And I've seen diversity in terms of movies. I've seen romance, I've seen action, I've seen horror, I've seen thriller, I've seen a lot of things. And I feel like now there's a male issue. I will sound like these anti SJW, but I'm worried about that because there's a war, a gender war. I bring this up in this movie review video because this resurfaced, eh, like, that kind of thought I had for most of the year. Look around. There's a few exception. Uh, the best exception there is The Fall Guy, one of my favorite movie. Had great male leads and great male characters. Monkey Man, I'm biased. I like this movie. I thought the lead was good, the character itself was good, but it's not the kind of example I like people to strive to be, because, like, let's be honest, the guy wants revenge. And again, it's a cool premise for a movie, but for a human being to be about revenge, not really. It's not cool. And the other exception would be Fly Me to the Moon. The male lead was actually really cool. But what we get most of the time is very gray male leads. And when they are not gray, they are villains. And the good guys that are generally good guys, you see them less often and less often. Look back 10 to 20 years ago. point out many movie icons. You're like, that's a cool man. Like, he has values, he has honor, he's the kind of guy we could strive to be. You look at what really went mainstream this year. We got Deadpool and Wolverine. That's kind of cool, but these are more anti-hero, almost villains. The only reason why they are not villain is because there's an actual villain in the movie. Men's are only good when they are the villain of your movie or when they are morally gray. Can we just have some positive icon like the guy in the fall guy? Yeah, he was flawed. Don't get me wrong. He had flaws, and they're very men-like. But when I look at my half brother and I'm like, this movie, I need to show it to him so he sees how a man can be. But it's probably the only movie where he will be remotely interested. Because if I show him Fly Me to the Moon, he will be bored, I swear. That's a bromance, that's a comedy, and guys, we usually enjoy more action flicks. But why it's worth mentioning here with this current video. Most men's in The Crow 2024 are all bad guys. And it's very different. And you compare it to 1994. We had a generally really good cop. The lead, before he turned into the monster, the Crow, was generally a good person. Maybe I misunderstood the first Crow movie. Maybe I missed the point there. But I think he was innocent when he died. And he was generally the kind of guy you're like, oh yeah, maybe it would be cool for my half brother to turn out like that guy there. I cannot tell the same with the new guy in the Crow. The new guy in the Crow, like, he's tattooed and like he was in a mental institute or a prison. I don't know which one, but he wasn't really like he wasn't a paragon. He wasn't a genuinely great guy. Well, he was cool. He was a loving person. That's a good trait, right? But in the Crow, like, that guy was always gray. He was always gray. He doesn't seem like someone that has good inside of him. And we need people with good inside of them. So this was my rant. Please make great male leads again. Now, it's fine to have female led movies. Like Longlegs was great, female led. Um, a lot of movie female led are great. A lot of male lead movies were great as well. It's not really about gender, it's more about I think we need some genuinely good guys and girls for the matter, but I feel like good girls you can look anywhere and you will find them in 2024. It's simple like that. Like they try really hard to have like every movie have a very strong female character, and it's rare that your female character will be the bad person, but when it happens, it's kind of okay because it doesn't happen often. When it comes to men, well, I feel like it happens all the time. The moment they can have a white guy or a guy in general being the bad guy, they will do it.
That's it for this segment there. I agree.
How are you, Gray?
Uh, Fantabulous?
Amazing, amazing. So, did you see recently The Crow 1994? I am wondering.
The original one? Yeah. I've seen it not for a long time, but I didn't hate it. I understood why people liked it and why people had it as like a cult classic. I mean, Ernie Hudson, you know, how can it not be a cult classic? Uh, and I get it. You know, Brandon Lee had a certain amount of charisma and swagger in that, but I don't know. It wasn't really the movie for me, but yeah, I get why people like it. It wasn't a horrible movie. I'll put it that way. I saw one of the sequels. I think it was called like City of Angels or something like that. It was pretty horrible. That's when I tapped out on the series. Until recently, where you know, we got this masterpiece, the 2024 reimagining, reboot, quill, whatever the hell you'd call this.
The best iteration of the story.
It's interesting. So yeah, I really dislike this. I find no thing of value really in this. I think it's really horrible. Every part of it, like it just looks depressing to look at, and not in like a fun like. I don't know. The first movie was dark. It was goth, but it was still kind of fun in a way. This just, I don't know, the way that they kind of have it like a dark brown and like everything, just it takes the fun away from everything. It's just, it's a nothing movie. It sucks because I think there are movies that are worse than it, but there's some redeeming element that makes it fun. Like, I don't think Madam Web is written better. I don't think it's acted better. But I could watch that so many more times and get so much more value out of it than watching this movie ever again. It's weird. It's just such a nothing movie to me, which sucks because I like now I'm forgetting his name, Skarsgård, but Bill. I like him in a lot of other things, and usually he adds a lot of like personality and character to it. In fact, earlier this year he was in Boy Kills World, where his character is mute. But my God, he has so much more personality than Eric in this movie. He's just nothing. Like, okay, so I get it. He's a drug addict who loved a horse when he was a boy, which unclear whether that was his horse or he just liked some drunk lady's horse. I don't know. He seemed to love the horse. And then the horse befalls tragedy. And then later on in the film, like it's flipping through all these like different visions. And the trailer that was right outside the horse is now on fire. Like, did he burn that lady for letting the horse get hurt? Like, what the fuck happened? Like, I don't know. I don't like this guy. I don't see any redeeming value, and I don't see him as the good guy. In the first one, you understand that it's like a revenge thing. Like, within the first 10 minutes, he's kicking ass. He's in costume. You understand what's going on. It befalls from tragedy, and it's kind of this revenge thing. In this one, we get like 45 minutes of like this weird, I don't know. I hooked up with some chick in rehab love story. It's weird. It doesn't hit the same as, you know, this guy who is going to get married, his fiance and him get taken out, but she gets brutalized even further and then dies in the hospital. Like, that is tragic. I really feel for that. This, it's like you kind of see two people with bags over their heads for a minute. Like, it's bad, but I don't know. I'm supposed to feel for them for some reason. I mean, they shared a backseat car ride to the lake. Other than that, I don't know. It's just so nothing. It's hard for me to even pull like a lot of the memories of what happened in this movie because it just feels like so nothing. The score doesn't seem to work the same way as the original one did. That one, at least, it had some impact. I understood why they're using a lot of those. In this one, no, even though they're using some songs that I like, the dude from the Cars, they use like his one song, but it doesn't seem like it's the right song to be fitting in with this world or what's going on at all. And man, the way that they do like his makeup at the end and the way that they add this in between world and then really kind of change what the crow is doing and like the significance of the crow. And it never really gets into the Crow in this one. Yet he's called the Crow. But like in the first one, they realized that like literally the Crow is his vulnerability. And like once it's just so weird. I guess there's the opera thing at the end. Like, okay, that's it's all right. Like I see what they're going for there. It is kind of a big finale. It's interesting that it's set to this music, but I don't know. Is everybody there deserving to be like sorted to death or whatever? Like, aren't some of these just like regular like security guys? Like, Multi, do you vet out every event that you've ever been at? Like, I've been a bouncer at a couple of gigs. I didn't know exactly what they were gonna do. That
Me
would suck
neither.
if somebody takes vengeance with some kingpin, and I'm just like the door guy. Don't take me out. So I don't know. It's interesting, but yeah, I really don't like this movie. I think it's the most I have disliked a movie this entire year. So I know directly after seeing it, I said it was on the bottom of my list. It's somewhere there. I know it's in the bottom 3, but I want to think about this movie a lot more. Maybe it'll move further up so that I don't have to talk about it again. But I don't know. I don't like any part of this. And it sucks because I like a lot of the actors that are involved. I don't know the female lead. I guess she's some British singer who transitioned into acting for this. I don't think she did especially bad. I don't care for her character that much. I don't really understand her other than she used to do bad things and she tried to run away because of a video on her phone or something, and then found a dude in rehab after running into cops with a bunch of drugs on her. I don't know. It's an interesting film. I don't know how it got made. I don't know why it got made. Like the fans were saying, we don't need this, and they're like, but here it is anyway. I think the most enjoyable thing about this entire thing is how the director of the original one is just roasting the shit out of the director of the new one. It's ongoing and it's quite entertaining.
Aren't guys in the same team? Aren't guys in the same team? I don't get it. But anyway, what were you saying? Sorry, I caught you on, Charles.
I just think Gray needs to touch grass is all.
You got a point.
And to go back at the opera, maybe I nitpick too much, but I find it very weird that we hear rifle and many gunshots and people are just normal there on the other side of the wall, and they wait until the wall blows up to react and be like, oh, it's crazy on the other side. But then you hear like pew 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 bang 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 bang. Like maybe I did pick too much, I don't know, but it broke the immersion for me so much. That movie is just I don't get it. I don't. It's sad, but I don't. Yeah, maybe I didn't pick too much. What would be rewind. What did you think of the romance in the older movie?
I mean, it's not really a romance movie. It's a revenge thing. So you just find out that they are a couple. They are engaged. They're about to be married the next day, which would be on Halloween. The romance worked for me. It's not really a romance movie where they tried to turn it into that with this one. So it just worked for me that it's like, okay, you're establishing that like, okay, he's going to the pawn shop. He's getting his wedding ring. He doesn't care about the others, but he has this sentimental value. With this, I don't know. Like, it didn't work. The romance didn't work. I don't know why we spent 45 minutes on that for me to really not know or care about either of these characters, where in the first 11 minutes of the other one, I do understand what his motivation is. I understand why he's doing this and what he's about to do. I think trying to switch genre into like this weird part romance thing, it really didn't work for me. It should be a revenge story.
Yeah, and I will also add this. Like I feel so bad for the two leads getting deleted in the old movie. Like it's tragic and sad. You said it, and they feel like genuinely good people based on what we know before the guy was reborn and went on a revenge spree. But prior they genuinely felt like good people. They took care of a girl that wasn't theirs, and it's endearing that you're like, they did good stuff. They didn't deserve it. And then you watch the remake, and you're like, why should I care about these people? Like, what did they do right? Really? And there's something I've heard about in one of the reviews, and I do agree with that. Like the remake one, the relationship was about self-destruction because they connected about being addicts, and the
You'd be surprised. A lot of people hook up in rehab.
those. But how should I care about them if they connected about that? You know, why should I care about their relationship? And the other factor is, it took like an hour to build up their relationship until they die.
Yeah, but
Now
you got the fun scene of them at the lake.
Oh my! But yeah, do you want to add anything more about these two crows, the birds?
Sure. So I don't hate the dude who plays the villain in this. I always forget his name, but he's awesome at like bit parts and stuff. Like he does come off like a villain. I swear he just played the same villain, and now I'm blanking at what it was. But I don't know. It really wasn't effective in this, which sucks because it's the same thing with Bill Skarsgård. He can be very effective, but I don't know. Maybe it's just what the director was looking at for him, or what he put into this performance. But it's just kind of like this miserable. I don't know. It's not a fun performance from anybody. It just kind of sucks. Where I'm thinking back to the original one, there's a bunch of classic lines. There's a bunch of classic performances. I remember a lot of what Ernie Hudson says in the first one. Like, man, there's nothing really memorable about this. Like, can either of you quote any line from this movie? No. The new one, the 2024 one. I'm hard pressed to come up with one line. I can pull like 3 off the top of my head from Crow 94, and I haven't seen it for who knows how long.
Aptly so. Cry now, cry later. That's a quote from the 2024 movie.
Wow.
Okay, well, I was proven wrong.
This
You got
is
me
rich. This is rich. This is deep talk. And I gotta say, I will mention that I did say it with Dlord yesterday, but I will say that in the old movie, the main character had a lot more charisma. And the biggest example would be one of my favorite scene in the old one, and it beats anything the remake tried to do. Like, and it beats actually a lot of movies of, I think, is in the big showdown with the bad guy with the table with a lot of bad guys. We got the crow enters the room and it says, I want him. Whoever wants to go can go. And they look at each other, they don't want to go. And then you had a choice, and he goes through everyone.
Yeah. What about the line, like, don't do drugs? I'm just saying there's a bunch of, like, famous lines from it.
It's just...
This new one, I mean, we got the quote that Charles had, but other than that, I don't know.
Like, when you got
I think
a guy...
there's one that's no touching. I think they say that one time while they're in rehab.
No touching. And it's mixed. Cool. That remake is terrible. And it's funny because Dlord had so much to say yesterday when I recorded the part with him.
No.
Huh.
See, the thing that
usually it's hard to get that guy to talk about anything.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to share? Charles or Gray, for the matter.
Don't see this movie. See anything else.
It's like two different things. We praised Darling a few minutes ago, and now we... shit on that.
Things I enjoy.
I really don't know how to start this part with the Crow, the 2024 one. I just think it's a far worse product of what we previously talked about. It's like someone asked the other child, "Can I copy your homework?" And instead of copying the homework, he tries to understand the homework and then he gives his own iteration of the homework. So he is heavily inspired from the homework, but he changed it so much. It's it's not the same thing, but it's the same thing. I lost myself with that allegory, that entire message. I kind of forgot what I wanted to say, but long story short, The Crow 2024 is the same premise, the same story as the 1994, but made by someone that doesn't have the skills or talent as the other one. It's basically someone that stole someone else's work, and then they're like, I can do better than you, and that's their take of doing better than the other. So, like, the foundation at its core, it's the same movie, but done worst. Because the person had the arrogance of thinking they can do better when they can't. It's kind of funny because with off script, I feel like it's probably the best part of this video, so maybe I should go off script more often. But that's really all it felt. I've seen the 1994 last week. I've seen the 2024 one today. Now, one improvement. That's the only thing to praise. The action was, it's gore, it's so violent, and again, it's off script because I didn't really elaborate there, but I will here. The action is violent, brutal. It's cool, it's great. You like action? Just watch some kind of supercut of each action scenes. You got a good time. It's when you watch the rest of the movie, it doesn't work. It's like saying, yeah, the action is like the only good thing about this movie, and that's the goddamn truth. Let's go right into it. It's the accident. It's the child nobody wants, or the child people actually by accident they just dropped it somewhere, or they forgot they hold it and they threw it on the wall or something. That's gruesome, right? This movie is bad. It's one of the worst movie I've seen this year, and not just 2024 movies, movies in general. This movie is just so bad. So my first issue, the characters are forgettable. It wasn't an issue with the other one. Here it's like criminal number one, criminal number two, criminal number three. Which character trait do they have? They are all criminals. There's no acting or attitude that you're like, that criminal is different. Actually, there's one character I remember being different. But it's not because the character is memorable, it's because he has a different outfit than the others. That's why I remember him. The cop, the corrupt cop! Because it's 2024. We cannot do like comic book stuff without having corruption in the police department. Now I get it. I fully get it. Like corruption is a thing. Corrupt cops do exist. And it's disgusting. But I'm tired of that trope. especially when it's done by not qualified writers. And yeah, um, it just rises up the hatred toward people in blue, and I will stand by them, not just because I wear blue right now, but because I do think they bring to the society order. Take them out, trust me, your sister is in danger. And it's not just the men, the woman as well. Everyone can go nuts if they know that there's no consequence to what they do. That's kind of beside the point. It's also funny because I talked about how even women can be dangerous, and I've just seen a movie that showcased a very dangerous woman. I won't spoil it here, but yeah. Anyway, um, The Crow 2024 has forgettable characters. Hell, even the main villain, I was like, yeah, like he was cool. He had cool powers. He was there. The actor did his job, but nothing left me where I was like, I want more of that character. No, he just went out. He was there. He went by, and he went out. Hell, I'd say even the lead character. I don't know what's up. I don't know if it's the actor or the direction. I don't know what went wrong, but even the main character, I there was a disconnect, and I go off script here because that's just me thinking on the fly. So yeah, bad character. Number two, bad lighting or color grading. I I think I will sound crazy there, but I think the aesthetic, the visual, the 1994 looked better than this shit. And it's shocking because we are talking about a movie that got like 30 years to have better visual. And usually I don't nitpick on that kind of stuff. I didn't go at film school or anything, but place both movies side by side. I really feel like the older one did it right. The newest one did it wrong. And I've seen the newest one on a bigger screen. So maybe they shot it on a streaming mindset where they were like, that movie is just so bad. After 3 weeks, it will go on streaming services and people will go watch there, and maybe it will look better on streaming. I doubt it, but hey, who knows? Feel like sometimes it was just too dark. Like there was stuff on the screen you could not see because someone messed up somewhere. Someone messed up somewhere. I I usually I don't elaborate on that, but here I feel like it's worth mentioning. It's bad. Um, Number three, awful dialogue. At least 4 times the dialogue felt more like a script talking than a character talking. And it's terrible. And that kind of goes back to I feel like the original did show a lot of stuff. And here in this movie, I feel like a lot of stuff that could have been shown was told. And I didn't really mark it as a specific issue because I really think if the dialogue was better, if the performance was better, if how they told what was going on, if they did it better, maybe it could have worked. But no, it's just here's the lore, ba 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 ba. Here's what's going on, ba 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 ba. Here's what you need to do, ba 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 ba. That's the kind of stuff like It sounds like an NPC in a video game, I swear. Maybe I'm too harsh on that movie, but that's how it felt. Sometimes, no, there's just a disconnect. Like, I I don't believe in what the characters are telling me. I sadly don't really have a more specific example. It's more like my overall experience because again, I went to see it in theater and usually all I do is I go there, I count on my fingers my number of issues, and sometimes when it's issues that repeat themselves, I kind of forget the exact thing, and this is what happened there. But the moment the movie or the moment the end credit roll, I pull up my phone and I start marking down as much things as I can remember. And sometimes on my way back home, I remember other stuff. So the first thing I do the moment I hit home is mark down anything that comes to mind. And then after that, I go on Letterbox, I mark down what I want to say, mark down my notes, I create some prep time for the video. But yeah, next up would be the pacing was really bad. At 7 instances in the movie. 7, I'm not joking. 7 times I was like, that scene could have been cut, or that scene went on for too long. That movie is an hour and 53 minutes. I think it's around the same runtime as the previous one. Maybe it's a bit longer because more modern movie tend to be longer. But I swear, I feel like that runtime of an hour 53 it wasn't felt it wasn't justified at all. I think with the credits, the end credits, you can trim it down to 1 hour and 20 minutes. So you probably have a 1 hour, 10-minute movie. There's a lot of repeat scene or scenes they just stretch on because the movie wants to pretend it has something going on. But literally, like, especially in the first half an hour to 45 minutes, the first half of the movie, because rewind, the first half of the movie before Eric becomes the crow. That entire segment of the movie, there was nothing going on, no action. Yes, you had a few moments where you build up characters, but it didn't work because the characters suck. But yeah, you had like 45 minutes to build a romance. It wasn't awful, it wasn't the worst romance on screen, but it wasn't anywhere near as good as the previous one, as 1994. And it's funny because I feel like 1994, the movie was like an hour and 40-ish minutes. There was maybe 20 minutes in that entire runtime dedicated to the relationship. And you felt it, you felt the pain Eric felt. The tragedy, it was sad. It was painful. It was like, man, they had something good going on and they just lost it. It's so unfair. 20 minutes. I swear. With this scroll, you got at least 30 minutes dedicated to the romance. Which is an extra 10 minutes. And when they died, I was just like, yeah, it's unfair because they were tortured when they died and it was gruesome and to think about it, the other crew was also kind of disgusting because we had assault to remain YouTube friendly. But Here they just they die because they lack the oxygen. They get suffocated. That's all they die. And that was well made. But you're not like, oh yeah, um, that's sad. No, you're like, yeah, they messed around the wrong people. They kind of went after trouble and they got trouble. That's how it felt with the 2024. You don't feel like these are innocent people getting and deleted or whatever. With 1994, you feel like they were genuine, really good people. But with 2024, I don't get the vibe that the movie tried to depict these characters as being morally perfect and being totally innocent. Especially with one of the twists by the end. Oh, she was involved in some nasty stuff, that's why we ended her. Okay, so she really deserves to die, I guess. And again, I really feel like, I'm not joking, half an hour of that movie is about the love relationship. And when they die, I didn't feel a shit. Like, I was bored. I was like, I want the guy to just become the crow. I don't care about their relationship. I don't know if it's the chemistry. I don't know if it's the writing. I don't know if it's the boredom. But I was actually glad when they died. I was like, finally, the movie can start. Um. So yeah, again, that movie could have lasted an hour and 20 minutes. Now let's bring up the last issue. So the last issue, maybe I'm too nitpicky, but here this is. And I will share a bit of personal experience. When I was a patroller in one of my jobs, there was a rainy day. I was walking outside, it was nighttime, and I heard something blowing up. I was kind of stressed out. I thought that was a gunshot because that was a huge bang. I was like, man, someone got shot or something. So I called the dispatcher. I was like, oh yeah, there's something going on. I heard something blowing up. I think it's a gunshot, but I'm not quite sure because look, in my town, it's quiet. Like in Montreal, we technically don't have the right to own a gun. Like there are some exception where you can pass some kind of test and have a license, but even there, it's really hard to find guns. There's no market for guns. So it's rare. Like when people want to delete someone else, they do it like that, or they do it like that. They don't do it like that here. Except if it's two gangs, then it's very different. But yeah, I thought we had a gunshot. So I was kind of freaking out. Then the cops came in after like 30 to 40 minutes. And I was like, are they joking? I thought that was a gunshot, and that's what I told the dispatcher. And what the cops told me is, oh yeah, since you're the only one that can hear about it, it's less likely a gunshot. And they still went to investigate. So the two cops, they went in the alley where something blew up. They didn't find anybody. They didn't find any weapon or any bullet or anything. So when they came back, they told me, "Oh yeah, maybe that's one fusible, like uh, circuit or some electric wire that just blew up because of the rain or something like that." And they were like, "If that was really a gunshot, trust me, you wouldn't be the only one calling for that." I was like, "How was that?" And they're like, Gunshot are loud. Like, they can make you deaf, literally. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I brought that story time to tell you this. The Cruel movie, my final issue, is a big fight, a big shout out, like bunch of people with rifles, guns, anything that's noisy as hell. They have that going on. The action itself was great. I liked it. I won't lie. I liked the action, but it felt so stupid because they are right beside a big room where there's a bunch of people, and there's a show of like opera or theater. I don't know what's going on, but there are people dancing, singing, doing lots of noise and such. But all of the gunshot, and for the time it lasted, there was no way in hell these people in the other room didn't hear a single gunshot. It's not believable. I'm sorry, but gunshot are loud. We got like 20 people having a fight. We got the lead doing pew pew, pew pew, pew pew. The others are like pew 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 pew, pew 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 pew, pew 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 pew. I swear, in runtime of the movie, it lasts at least 10 minutes. So in the timeline of the movie, maybe it's 5 minutes of people shooting each other. And nobody in the other room is like, oh yeah, there's something effy, there's something weird. No, they're just chilling, they're having their show or something. In the meantime, we got a bloodbath, like 20 guys died, they all drop on the ground, bloodbath. But normal stuff, you know. Maybe it's my town that's too quiet and we have that kind of stuff going on in New York. I don't know. So yeah, the fact that someone needed to be pushed inside that room to create chaos, it felt off. It felt off. It's like wanting your viewers to just turn off their brain and say everything I watch makes sense even when it doesn't. You need to suspend disbelief until you can't. The way it goes, right? So overall, the movie had a lot of issues. I only mentioned five, but again, some of my issues are recurring that kept coming back and coming back and coming back. That was bad. Like, that movie, it awoke something in me. Now, let's mention quickly my likes and one of the themes I could see. The action was cool, the gore was great. Thumbs up for that. The lore, powers, and magic system was cool. Sorry about that, and I don't know if I will remember to cut that in the editing room, but yeah. Um, Music was great. Romance was fine. It wasn't as good as the previous one, but I won't hold it against this movie. I will just say what I feel, you know? The sacrifice in the end was decent. The main villain, the one behind everything, was decent. It was forgettable, but it was decent. Like the performance and the power set was kind of cool. He whispers like the worst thing inside someone, and then they just end up like vanish into oblivion. And all about what happens when you lose love and hate replaces love. Simple. So the Crow remake, as bad as I thought. Well, actually, no, that's a lie. I thought the movie would be worse. The action is a redeeming quality in my books, but does that means I tell you go watch it? No. I think some smart mind should make a supercut of the movie where you just keep the action. You don't give a shit about the rest, you just keep the action. And even there, it's not like peak, 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 peak. No, it's just good action. This year, movies are amazing, but this thing is just bad. In my books, this Crow remake deserves a 3.5 out of 10. Now, this is the end of the review part, but I want to slide in a more state of cinema and political bullet point I want to drive home. So you can stick for that to hear my thoughts. So let's do this.
Like, oh,
Oh, Crow, 1994. What would be your grade, Charles, if you remember well enough?
I don't know. I
Okay.
wouldn't be able to grade it and stand by it.
What about you, Gray?
Haha.
Gray is
And
a
more
glitch
water.
in the system. Yeah.
Splash, splash.
So
chug,
while
chug.
while Gray is out, I gave the original a 9 out of 10. Really solid, really good. What about the remake, Charles? What would be your grade
I
out
gave
of
it
10?
a 1.5 out of 5, which I guess would be a 3 out of 10.
We are very, very close by. In my books, that's a 3.5 out of 10. I have that 0.5 extra.
Hmm.
That's a bad movie. What about you, Gray? What would be your grade for both Crow movies? Gray has muted himself.
Sorry
He's
about that.
talking.
Sugar glider issue. One of them oh, now there's parrots screaming. Good times. The zoo is happening here at night. Yeah, not sure if you heard the night parrot, but she's a screaming. Yeah, and the first one, I think it would be somewhere around like a 6 to me. It's not a great movie. It's not one that I go back to out of 10. I don't know. I see why people like it. It's not for me. I see its value. The new one, I don't know. I think I'm at like a 2. I think I give it about the same value as It Ends With Us. It is not a great movie. I'm not happy with it.
So it's the big empty.
It's very empty for me. I don't know. I'm kind of teetering on if it's the worst one of the year so far for me. I know it's in the bottom of the list, but the other day I was thinking it is, and I kind of looked at him. It's like, I dislike that one more. So I'm not sure, but it's down there. I have no desire to ever watch this movie again, and it sucks because I like the actors in it. I even thought the the love interest is interesting, even though I've never seen her in anything. I don't know. I didn't hate her. I don't care for anyone or anything in this film.
Yeah. I think it's a general thing everyone agrees on.
Yeah.
Maybe I am chronically online and that's why I have that kind of segment there, but yeah, that's how I feel. Make icons again. Make men and girls great. Anyway, that was it for today. Do all of the YouTube stuff. Like, comment, and subscribe. Go watch mainstream movie reviews. Go watch Red Blue Podcast. There's 5 season over, and a 6th one is coming very soon. Anyway, I'm out.